I found my cheating wife hitchhiking home from a sleazy motel. I never thought I would ever post anything on here, but this insane situation I found myself in is just too absurd not to share. It all started when my wife started playing Words with friends obsessively. Now, I had no problem with her playing the game itself, but I noticed she was spending more and more time on it, like hours every day. Little did I know, she was spending more time in the chat room than actually playing the game. She met this guy there, and they started chatting a lot. One day, he asked her to add him on Snapchat, and she does. This is where things started going downhill. A quick side note, the dude's Snapchat name was something like Moneybags247. Like, are you freaking kidding me? We are in our 30s. How in the world could she take a guy with a screen name like that seriously? Anyway, my wife gets all wrapped up in this guy's lies. He tells her that he owns a lucrative roadside assistance business that works on semis. He starts feeding her all sorts of stories, and she falls for it. Eventually, he convinces her to meet him at a cheap motel on a county highway a few towns away. You can probably see where this is going. The day she was supposed to meet him, she told me she was going to visit her sister for the afternoon. I didn't think much of it and let her go. I had no idea what she was actually doing. Fast forward a few hours later, and they go into the motel room and she cheats. Afterwards, he gets her to fall asleep, and that's when things took a crazy turn. This guy turns out to be a complete scumbag. He steals her purse, her phone, and her car. Apparently, he had brought a friend with him who had been hiding in another room the entire time, according to the police report, which we will discuss more in a minute. My wife wakes up to find herself alone, robbed, and stranded in the middle of nowhere. The worst part, she can't remember anyone's phone number because they're all just programmed into her phone. So, she's stuck there, trying to figure out what to do. She decides her best bet is to hitchhike home. Like, for real. That was her best plan at this point. What on earth? Did she think I wouldn't find out if she showed up to the house, getting out of some random car and with hers nowhere to be found? Did she think I wouldn't have asked questions? She actually thought that hitchhiking was a safe and viable alternative to just confessing, or calling the cops, or any other of the 1 million better choices that she could have made. Meanwhile, I'm starting to worry about her because I haven't heard from her in hours. I try calling her, but her phone is turned off and it goes straight to voicemail. I call her sister to check on her, and she says that she hasn't seen her and that they didn't have any plans to meet that day. I instantly had this sinking feeling in my stomach, and I decided to go looking for her. As I was driving, I was calling and messaging any and all of her friends. It just felt as if something was bad wrong and I had to do something about it. I drove around for what felt like forever, not knowing where she could be. Everyone now on Facebook asking each other if anyone knows what could be going on. Finally, as I was driving down the county highway, I saw her at the side of the road, attempting to hitchhike home. I couldn't believe my eyes. I pulled over and picked her up, and she was visibly upset. I asked her what on earth was going on and where her car was. At first, she refused to talk to me, but I could tell something was seriously wrong. I tried to get her to tell me what happened, but she just clammed up. Finally, I lost my temper and yelled at her, demanding an explanation. That's when she broke down and confessed everything. The guy from Words with Friends, the lies, the cheating, the theft. I sat there in stunned silence, unable to process what she was telling me. I couldn't believe that my wife, the woman I loved and trusted, could do something like this. I instantly called the police and turned the car around and drove back to the Sleazy Motel, where she was forced to give a statement and tell them all of the embarrassing details of what had transpired. I was standing there, pissed and looking like a complete idiot in front of the police. I felt like I had a Dan Clown suit on. The cops even made her officially identify the room in which of the 2 beds they had laid in, although it was obvious. It was a nightmare. Then they took a statement from the desk clerk, who looked completely drunk out of his mind. He did say that there were 2 men checking in that day, and 2 different rooms, but he was too drunk to give any sort of usable description to the officers. And it is probably no surprise to you at this point that the other guy had already left the motel as well, most likely in my wife's car. Talk about frustrating. After all of that, I had to take her home, and the entire ride was tense and silent. When we got there, I didn't say a word. I just gave her the coldest, iciest stare I could muster. She knew she had messed up, but there was no way I was going to let her off the hook. The next day, I filed for divorce. I couldn't stand the thought of being with someone who could betray me like that and who had such a faulty sense of judgment. I mean, how could I ever have a normal life with her after that? She destroyed like 1,700 layers of trust. I mean, she broke just about every rule of relationships and common sense that she could in one day. She's lucky she's even alive. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and betrayal, but I knew I had to move on from this terrible situation. They never found the car. They never found the dudes. The police said these guys were pros and that there was no way to trace anyone through Snapchat. Imagine that. She moved out of our house the next day and went to live with her sister. I haven't spoken to her since the day I picked her up on the side of the road, and I have no plans to do so. The divorce process was quick and relatively painless, considering the circumstances. I think my wife knew she had no leg to stand on, and she didn't try to fight it. All she got was her personal belongings, and I kept the rest. Luckily, we don't have kids. Can you imagine having to explain what was going on to kids? Of course, I would never have given children the nasty details, but still, how would you even approach them? I'm glad I'll never have to know. As for me, I'm trying to rebuild my life and learn from this experience. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm slowly healing and moving forward. I know this story is probably one of the craziest things you'll ever read, but it's all true. If there's one lesson to take away from it, it's this: be careful who you trust, both online and in real life. You never know who might be hiding behind a seemingly innocent game of words with friends. Anyway, I thought I would share this story with you all. I'm still in disbelief that something like this could happen, but I guess truth really is stranger than fiction. Thanks for reading my story, and I hope it serves as a cautionary tale for others out there. Stay safe, everyone, and take care of yourselves. That was insane. Why do you think she would even do something like that? What could she have possibly been thinking? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threats.